अस्सलाम वालेकुम एवरीवन। क्या हाल है आप लोगों के? वालेकुम अस्सलाम, वालेकुम अस्सलाम। Love from Bangladesh. I appreciate that. Walaikum assalam. I'm good, alhamdulillah. Thank you for asking. Love from Sri Lanka. Now, I was very close to visiting Sri Lanka this year, but maybe next year I will, inshallah. Sir, we missed your streams. Yeah, I did. I missed doing live streams as well. सर कॉम्पोजिट दे रहा हूँ मैथ्स का P1 P3 M1 S1 का, तो क्या ये हो सकता है? आई हैव डन S1 M1 एंड P1, बस प्रैक्टिस रहती है. कॉम्पोजिट इन May June? In May June, yes, I was in Malaysia. I was in Malaysia for 10 days. Sequence of transformation? No, not really. I mean, there are some cases where if you change the sequence, you will still get the same answer. So yeah, but it's not a standard rule. Concepts nahi, hum past papers karenge. Sir, please come to Sri Lanka. Yeah, I want to actually visit Sri Lanka. I noticed that it's a beautiful place. Maybe next year, inshallah. Or maybe, well, there's World Cup there this year, so I don't know. Let's see. But I do want to visit Sri Lanka someday. Sir, can I still register for your classes P1? Yeah, you can do that. It's been, I think, 3-4 classes. Yeah, so you haven't missed much. But yeah, you can still register. And when you register, you will get the recordings of all the classes that you've missed. Sir, exams are near. Please give some tips. You already know the answer. All you have to do is sit down and study. So it's not that I'm going to say something magical which is going to transform your life. You know what you have to do. Okay, we all know what we have to do. Anyway, sir, can we please also go through the concept of this as well? So here's what I can do. I can go over my notes, okay, of where I've covered this concept and walk you guys through those briefly. ठीक हो गया? Okay, now let's get to work. Let's review each transformation one by one, and then we will do some past papers, okay? So all in all, there are 3 transformations. You guys know that, right? There are 3 transformations. There is translation, there is stretch, and there is... Also, before I start, if you guys haven't liked the stream, I would appreciate if you do that. And also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I'd appreciate if you do that as well. Okay? So yeah, what was I saying? All in all, there are 3 transformations that we have. We have translation, we have stretch, and we have reflection. Okay? Now, as far as translation is concerned, you could have horizontal translation, vertical translation, you could have a mix of both, okay? As far as stretch is concerned, you could have a vertical stretch, you could have a horizontal stretch, and you can have a mix of both. As far as reflection is concerned, it could be reflection along the x-axis, reflection along the y-axis, okay? Now, let's look at translation. Acha, hum ek kaam karte hain, let's look at the summary of each transformation. So if, let's say, this is the equation of the curve, and you add something to it, okay? What happens as a result? What happens as a result is that the graph will move a units up, okay? And what will a vector look like? 0a. Since I'm only translating it vertically, so that means this is basically the translation matrix, or you can say the translation vector. And what will happen to each point? Since there's only change in y, so x coordinate will remain the same, but the new y coordinate will be y plus a, okay? If you subtract something, that means the graph will move a units down, and this is what the translation vector will look like, and this is what will happen to every single point. Now, with x, it's the opposite. If you subtract something from x, the graph will actually move that many units towards the right. Meaning if you subtract a units from x, the graph will move a units towards the right. And what will the translation vector look like? It will look like a0. And what will happen to every single point? X will increase by a units. If you want to make the graph move towards the left, you will have to add something, okay? And what will the translation vector look like? This is what the translation vector will look like. It will look like minus a0, and what will happen to every single point? It's going to be x minus a comma y. What I'll do is, I'll share these notes with you guys in the same folder, and you'll find the link in the description. In that description, you will find out past papers that we're going to solve today, and you will also find out these notes that I'm uploading, okay? Sir, are you wearing the same purple shirt? Which purple shirt? Khair. Now, let's look at the summary of reflection. So reflection is fairly easy. Here's how it works. If you multiply the entire equation by minus, what happens is the graph is reflected along the x-axis, or you can say along the line y equals to 0, since that's what the equation of the x-axis is. And this is what every point will look like. The x-coordinate stays the same, the y-coordinate will change its sign. If you want to reflect the graph along the y-axis, you will multiply only the x by minus, and this is what's going to happen to every single point, okay? The sign of the x-coordinate will change, whereas the y-coordinate will remain the same. Okay? Achha, stretch is a bit complicated. Okay, so this is basically the summary of stretch. I'll explain. Pay attention. Stretch is a bit complicated. That is where students tend to struggle the most. So if you multiply x with a certain constant, okay, that is what? That is stretch in the x direction. But what is the stretch factor? The stretch factor is always the reciprocal of the coefficient of x. Okay, the stretch factor is always the reciprocal of the coefficient of x. And what will happen to every single point? Every single point gets divided by the coefficient of x, whereas the y-coordinate remains the same. To make a stretch in the y direction, you multiply the entire function with the stretch factor. Okay, and you can see the stretch factor here is a, and every single y-coordinate will be multiplied by a. Okay, so this is the summary. You can just keep the summary in front of you when you're doing past paper questions and refer to it if you have to. Okay, but I have uploaded conceptual videos of this on my channel also. You guys can check it out. In today's stream, I want to just solve lots and lots of past paper questions, because if I do concepts right now, we're not going to be able to cover enough past paper questions. Okay. Acha, what's that? Sir, I got a C in maths in October, November first sitting. Now I'm planning to start over and give an exam. Yeah, that is a good idea. I will not recommend that you give composite in October, November 2026. It's a good idea that you give the exam. You divide it, you break it down, and then do it. Okay. Got A star October, November 2025. Which I appreciate that. Congratulations. Okay. Let's look at this question. Let's see what it says. The graph y is equals to f of x is transformed to the graph y is equals to 1 plus f of half x. Describe fully the two single transformations which have been combined to give the resulting transformation. Okay. So first let's write this nicely. Y is equals to f of half x, close the bracket, plus 1. October, November paper was kind of hard. I don't remember, so I can't really comment, but yeah, you could say so. Khair. So notice that we have one horizontal transformation and one vertical transformation. In that case, the order in which you state the transformation does not matter. Okay, I've mentioned that over here. Okay, make sure to go over these notes. I've mentioned that over here. So whenever you have one vertical and one horizontal, the order does not matter. Okay. So how do I know this is one vertical transformation, one horizontal? Because one is being added to the entire curve, and here the coefficient of x is being multiplied by half. So one transformation that we all can see is translation. Okay, and what is the vector of translation? It's 0 and 1. Okay. And then this is stretch. Now, when you say stretch, make sure that you are explicit and you mention that this is a stretch parallel to parallel to x-axis. Okay, this is a stretch parallel to x-axis. Now, when you say stretch parallel to x-axis, you have to write down the stretch factor also. How do you write down the stretch factor? It's going to be 1 divided by the coefficient of x, which is half, which means the stretch factor is equals to 2. Okay, so here is the stretch factor, 2, and there you go. That is your answer. Okay, you say either stretch in the x direction or you say stretch parallel to the x-axis. Okay, don't use the word horizontal stretch. I don't encourage that. Either mention stretch parallel to the x-axis or mention stretch or mention horizontal or mention stretch in the x direction. ठीक हो गया? Okay. Let's do another question. Let's have a look here. In each parts of A, B, and C, the graph shown with solid line has equation y equals to f of x. The graph shown with the broken lines is a transformation of y is equals to f of x. Okay. Hi Saad, I watched your AS binomial servicing. So I appreciate that. Binomial is an easy chapter and it should be a strong topic. You should look forward to solving questions of binomial because you can do very well in it easily. Okay. So state in terms of f the equation of the graph with broken lines. So we can see that this graph is basically a reflection in the y-axis. How do you reflect a graph in the y-axis? You multiply x with the minus sign. Okay, so there you go. That's the equation of the graph with broken lines. This is how you reflect something along the x-axis. Okay, let's have a look at this. State in terms of f the equation of the graph shown with broken lines. Okay, now what is this here? This is the actual graph and this is the reflected one. This is the transformed one. Now notice that the width of the graph has remained the same. Okay, the width of both the graphs has remained the same, which means this is not a horizontal stretch. However, the height of the graph has doubled. Okay, the height of the graph has doubled. Okay, so if you look at the height of this graph and if you compare it with the height of this graph, you will notice that it's doubled. Similarly, if you compare the height of this line and you compare it with the height of this line, you will notice that it has doubled. So how do you do that? How do you make sure that every y coordinate gets multiplied by 2? 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, and 3 becomes 6. So that will happen if you multiply the entire equation by 2. So the transformed curve has equation y is equals to 2 times of f of x. So just a second. I don't know why this is lagging. So I'm just going to restart it. Hopefully that will help. Sir, can you please stream 0580? But I've already done a stream on differentiation of IGCSE. In fact, I've covered the entire chapter. Okay. All right. Now part C. Okay. So what's going on in part C? In part C, sir, been so long since you were last live. Actually, yeah, I've recently started streams again. So what is this? This is basically a translation. Now we're not supposed to do that. We're not supposed to mention the transformation. We're basically supposed to write down the equation of the broken graph. Okay. Now let's have a look at it step by step. Let's take this point and compare it with this point. So this point has gone 1, 2, 3, 4 units to the left. Okay, this has gone 4 units to the left. And it has gone 1, 2, 3 units down. So how do you make sure that the graph moves 4 units to the left? You add 4 to x. Okay, with x, it's the opposite. When you add something, it moves towards the left. When you subtract something, it moves towards the right. And then how do you make every y coordinate move 3 units down? You subtract 3. There you go. You subtract 3. That's the answer. So how many marks? 4 easy marks. Okay, let's do another question. Let's do this one. So this question says, state the range of f. Okay. So this is 3 over 2 cos 2x plus half. We know that if it's 3 over 2, that means, no, I don't have the latest October, November 2025 questions. So this point will be 3 over 2 plus 1 over 2, which means 4 over 2, that's equal to 2. And this point right here will be minus 3 over 2 plus 1 over 2. Okay, so that means the lowest value is right here. Or you can simply work it out manually by plugging in pi, find out the greatest value, or simply plug in 0 to find out the greatest value, and plug in pi upon 2 to find out the least value. Okay, so minus 3 upon 2 plus 1 upon 2, that's going to be minus 2 upon 2, which is equal to minus 1. So that means the range of f of x is greater than or equal to minus 1 and lesser than or equal to 2. There you go. Okay, now pay close attention. A function g is such that g of x is equals to f of x plus k, where k is a positive constant. The x-axis is a tangent to the curve y is equals to g of x. All right. State the value of k and hence describe fully the transformation that maps the curve y equals to f of x and y equals to g of x. Okay. No, there is not a stretch here. What we're supposed to do is we're supposed to take this curve and add something to it so that the transformed curve, read the question, the transformed curve is a tangent to the x-axis. Okay, so read this. This is very important. The x is tangent to the curve. Okay. Now, how do I make sure that this curve becomes tangent to the x-axis? So let's keep on translating it till we reach a point where it's tangent to the x-axis. So let's keep adding, keep adding, keep adding, keep adding, keep adding, keep adding. There you go. Now it's tangent to the x-axis. Okay. Amara beta, I think... Amara, what subject do you think I'm streaming right now? And please, nobody answer this question. Yes, I had 1. That's correct. So that means the value of k is equal to 1. When you add 1, the graph moves 1 unit up, and we now have the curve which is tangent to the x-axis. Achha, we are supposed to write down the equation. Does the question say write down the equation, state the value of k and hence fully? Okay, no, we're supposed to describe as well. So this is translation. And when we say translation, we write down the translation vector, which is 0, 1. Okay. Now, I'll explain this again. So in order to state the range, you need to know what is the maximum value. You need to know what is the minimum value. You can see that the graph is maximum at 0. And you can see that the graph will be minimum at pi upon 2. Why pi upon 2? Because it has to be in between 0 and pi. So what comes in between 0 and pi? Pi upon 2. So simply plug in 0, find out the maximum value. Simply plug in pi upon 2, find out the minimum value. ठीक है, मैंने किसी और तरीके से किया. In order to be able to do that, you need to have trigonometric concepts. You need to have pretty solid trigonometric concepts. If you don't, that's okay. You can use this method as well. Okay, now. State the equation of the curve, which is a reflection of y equals to f of x in the x-axis. Give your answer in the form y equals to a cos 2x plus b, where a and b are constants. Okay. Can we do by substituting 1 and minus 1? No. 1 and minus 1 are the maximum and minimum values. How will you substitute 1 and minus 1? You can't. Okay, I think I know what you're saying. I think you're saying, can we substitute 1 in place of cos 2x and then minus 1 in place of cos 2x? If that's what you're saying, yes, you can do that. You can do that. Okay. So what we're supposed to do is we're supposed to take the original equation, which is 3 over 2 cos 2x plus 1 over 2, I believe. Yeah, you can do that, Shan. That's a good thing that you pointed out. Okay, we're supposed to reflect it in the x-axis. How do you reflect something in the x-axis? You multiply the entire equation by minus. Okay, and when you do that, this is what you get. Minus 3 upon 2 cos 2x minus 1 upon 2. There you go. Job done. Okay, let's skip this question. Okay, it's the same question again. चलो ये करते हैं. Let's do this one. So I'm doing an AdMath stream tomorrow. I am streaming equation of circles, inshallah. Describe fully a sequence of transformations that maps the graph y equals to f of x on y is equals to g of x. Okay, f of x to y is equals to g of x. Okay, let's see. So here's f of x, which is equal to 3 cos 2x plus 2. Okay. And then we have g of x, which is technically f of 2x plus 4, but let's write it down. So f of 2x basically means 3 cos 2. Now in place of 2x, in place of x, we're going to write 2x. Okay, the plus 2 from before. And then the plus 4. Okay. So what do we have? We have one horizontal transformation and we have one vertical transformation. How do I know one is horizontal, one is vertical? Because you can see that we're adding something towards the end and we can see that x का जो coefficient है वो हमारा multiply हो रहा है 2 से. ठीक है? It's no longer x, it's basically this is what it is. ठीक है? Okay. So are we supposed to find out the equation? Okay, my bad. I thought we were supposed to find out the equation as well, so that's why I did what I did. So let's ignore that. I thought we were supposed to find out the transformed equation also. Okay? But we're not supposed to do that. So let's just write it as it is. G of x is equals to f of 2x plus 4. Okay? Okay, now f of 2x means that this is a stretch parallel to x-axis and the stretch factor or scale factor is equals to 2. And then because of the plus 4, it means that it's a translation. And when you say translation, simply write down the translation vector. That's good enough. No need to describe it. The vector is sufficient. ठीक हो गया? Okay. Let's do another question. Describe fully a sequence of transformations which maps the graph f of x onto h of x. Okay. So here is h of x. Let me write down h of x. H of x equals 2 times f of x plus half pi. Okay. No, that's not a stretch in the y direction because x has been multiplied by 2. Had it been 2f, in that case, it would have been a stretch in the y direction. Okay? So, let's have a look here. So, first of all, this is, you can say stretch parallel to y-axis. Okay, and what's the scale factor? The scale factor is equals to 2. And then since you're adding something to x, adding or subtracting something means it's a translation. And since you're adding something to x, it means that the graph is moving towards the left. And how do you describe that? By keeping the x component of the translation vector as negative and the y component is 0 because there's nothing you're adding in y. And there you go. That is the answer. ठीक हो गया? And you can change the order also. Okay, you can change the order. It's the same thing, makes no difference. Okay, let's do another question. I like this. I like this question. Let's do this. So in this, what we have to do is we have to first convert both of them into completed square form. Okay, so let's start with f of x. F of x is equals to x square minus 2x plus 5. So x square minus 2x. Let's leave a bit of space. And then, what's that? Hi, sir, this might be off topic, but how do you solve a question when you have sine square x equals to 4? You take the square root on both sides, but it's not possible. Even when you take the square root on both sides, you will have plus or minus 2, and that's not possible because the maximum value of sine is positive 1, the minimum is negative 1, so that's not possible. Anyway, now we need to add the square of 1 here, and we need to subtract the square of 1 here. So this becomes x minus 1, the whole thing square. 5 minus 1, that's equal to 4. So this is f of x in completed square form. Okay. Then let's do the same for g of x. So g of x is equals to x square plus 4x plus 13. It's actually not a good idea to work in columns. So let's continue here. We have plenty of space, but yeah, we have plenty of space. So this will be x square plus 4x. Let's leave a bit of space, and then plus 13. Now we add 2 square, we subtract 2 square. So this will become x plus 2, the whole thing square. 13 minus 4, that's equal to 9. There you go. And this is g of x. Okay, now what we have to do is we have to express g of x in this form. Okay, now be careful. So here we have x minus 1. We have to turn this x minus 1 into x plus 2. So what do we have to do? We have to add 3. Okay, so we have to turn this into x minus 1. We have to turn the minus 1 to plus 2. So that means g of x must be equal to f of x plus 3. Okay, then what we have to do is we have to turn this 4 into 9. So what do? We have to add 5. So that means in the end, we have to do a plus 5. Okay, I repeat. A good idea would be to actually put them side by side and compare. That will make it easier for you, I guess. Okay. Now, we have x minus 1 the whole thing square, and we wish to make it x plus 2 the whole thing square. So that means I need to add 3 in f of x. And then we have plus 4, which we wish to turn into 9. So that means we need to add a plus 5. There you go. I have done domain and range kind of questions also, but I will do another stream, don't worry. Describe fully the transformation which transforms the graph y is equals to f of x onto y equals to g of x. So that's a no-brainer now. It is translation, but be careful. Since it's x plus 3, that means the x component of the translation vector will be minus 3, and the y component will be 5. There you go. ठीक हो गया? Okay. This is fairly easy. So let's do this. I like this question. So how do we solve okay, I've already answered that. Differentiation integration, I'll do that. So close to exams, don't worry, I'll cover all the important topics, okay? Right now, just worry about one thing at a time. But be assured that close to exams, inshallah, I will be covering the entire syllabus. Theek? Okay. The graph of y is equals to f of x is transformed to the graph of y is equals to 2 times f of x minus 1. Describe fully the 2 single transformations which have been combined to give the resulting transformation. Okay, very simple. First of all, it's a translation. And the vector is 1, 0. And then it's a stretch parallel to y-axis with scale factor 2. ठीक हो गया? Okay, now. Then the question says the curve y is equals to sine 2x minus 5x is reflected in the y-axis, then stretched by scale factor 1/3 in the x direction. And write down the equation of the transformed curve. Okay. So first of all, this is the equation. Y equals to sine 2x minus 5x. Let's reflect it in the x-axis. In the y-axis, which we will do by basically changing x to minus x. And this will become minus x as well. So we have y is equals to sine of minus 2x plus 5x. ठीक हो गया? Okay, now. Then after this, what we're supposed to do is, so if you guys remember the identity, sine of minus theta is equal to minus sine theta. If you guys remember the identity, so do it. Otherwise, if you don't, it's acceptable. Okay, so you can write this as minus sine 2x plus 5x. Okay. So then what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to stretch it in the x direction with scale factor 1 upon 3. Remember, if you are stretching it in the x-axis with scale factor 1 upon 3, that means you have to in the equation, what you're going to do is, in the equation, x will become 3x. Okay, x will become 3x. That is when the scale factor is 1 upon 3. Okay, so we're going to change x to 3x. And here also, we're going to replace x with 3x. Okay, so y is equals to minus sine 6x plus 15x. That's the answer. No, there is no other method. If you don't remember the identity, then your answer is going to look like this. Okay, if you don't remember the identity, that's perfectly all right. It is acceptable. Then your answer is going to look like this. Sine of minus 6x plus 15x. Okay, if you remember the identity, that's great. If you don't, then keep it like this only. Okay. So let's do a question where there are multiple horizontal transformations. I want to do one of those questions. ये भी अच्छा सवाल है. We'll do it later. Yeah, let's do this. Okay, now. First, let's do this. Yeah, let's do this directly. Another curve with equation y is equals to f of x has a single stationary point at the point p comma q, where p and q are constants. The curve is transformed to a curve with equation so and so. For the transformed curve, find the coordinates of the stationary point, give your answer. Actually, no, wait a minute, not this question. Let's do a question. There was a question which had multiple horizontal transformations. Just a second. Okay, let's do this one. So here it says the curve has equation y is equals to x squared minus 8x plus 5. Okay. Find the coordinates of the minimum point of the curve. Minimum point means that the question is asking us to find out the turning point. Okay. So we have x squared minus 8x. We leave a bit of space. We write plus 5. Now, what do we need to add? We need to add the square of 4. What do we need to subtract? We need to subtract the square of 4 as well. So this becomes x minus 4. You can do this through differentiation also. And then 5 minus 16, which is equal to 5 minus 16 is minus 11. So that means the coordinates of the minimum point of the curve are 4 comma negative 11. Pretty straightforward. Okay, then the question says the curve is stretched by a factor parallel of 2 parallel to the y-axis. So that means y, this is what it will look like. Y equals to 2 times f of x. Okay. And you can do it through differentiation also. Okay. Acha, what's that? Sir, I wanted to ask you in the advanced course book to draw a full graph to solve, then draw a horizontal line, find the... Okay, I don't know which question it is that you're talking about, or what kind of questions it is that you're talking about. So this is the first transformation. Okay. Then when we apply the second transformation, which is a translation of 4, 1, so that means we have to subtract 4 from x. Okay, and then we need to add 1 towards the end. Okay, this is the second transformation. Okay, now let's apply it to the point. This is the point 4 comma minus 11. After I apply the first transformation, what will happen is the y coordinate will be doubled. The y coordinate will get multiplied by 2. So that will be 4 comma negative 22. Then after I apply the second transformation, which is 4 and 1, which means that I will add 4 to the x coordinate, so that's 4 plus 4, and I will also add minus 1 to the y coordinate. Okay, so that means 8 comma negative 21 is the final answer. Okay, 8 and negative 21 will be the answer to this question. ठीक हो गया? अच्छा, अभी भी एक सवाल है. I'm trying to find out. I hope I can find it. Where you have multiple horizontal transformations. So let's do this question. I like this question. Question number 14 of the worksheet. Let's see what it says. So this question says the diagram shows a curve. The diagram shows a curve which has maximum point at 8, 12 and a minimum point at 8, 0. The curve is a result of applying a combination of two transformations to a circle. The first transformation applied is a translation of 7 minus 3. The second transformation is applied as a stretch in the y direction. Okay. State the scale factor of the stretch. All right. So since this is a circle, keep in mind, and this has only been stretched vertically, that means this is what its diameter must have been. Okay, this is what its diameter must have been. It must have been 4. Okay, so that means the diameter must have been 4 in both the directions, but because it has been stretched vertically, now notice that it's, although not diameter, but this length has become 12. Okay, so 4 has basically become 12, which means the scale factor of the stretch is equal to 3. Okay, I repeat, since this was a circle, this is what it must have been like when it was a circle. Okay, now since it has been stretched vertically, not horizontally, which is why the height has increased. The height, which must have been 4, has now become 12. Because how do you increase the height from 4 to 12? By stretching it vertically with a scale factor of 3. State the radius of the original circle. We know that the radius must have been 2. Because it hasn't been stretched horizontally, so horizontally it is the same what it must have been prior to stretching. So you can see that the diameter is 4, which means that the radius must have been equal to 2. Okay, now, next part. State the coordinates of the center of the circle after the translation has been completed, but before the stretch is applied. Okay. All right, just a second. Yeah. State the coordinates of the center of the circle after the translation has been applied, but before the stretch is applied. Okay. So let's see. The question says 7, the first transformation is applied in the first transformation is applied in the translation is a translation of 7 and minus 3. Okay. So this is basically the center after the translation. ठीक हो गया? What are we supposed to do? We're supposed to find out the coordinates of the center before the translation. So these are the coordinates of the center before the translation. Achha, wait. Okay, wait a minute. Sorry, I misread the question. The question says, state the coordinates of the center of the circle after the translation has been completed, but before the stretch is applied. Okay. So before the stretch is applied, remember that this is basically a vertical stretch with scale factor 2. Okay, this is basically a vertical stretch with scale factor 2. We can now see that the center is at 8, 6. Okay, we can now see that the center is 8, 6. But this is after stretching it with scale factor 3. So this is after, okay, after stretch. What we are supposed to do is we're supposed to find out the coordinates after the translation but before the stretch. So that would be 8 over 6 upon 3, which means the final answer will be 8 upon 2. Now you don't have to show this working, but I'm just showing this so that you guys know how we get the answer 8 comma 2. Okay? So this is what the center was before the stretch. So then the question says state the coordinates of the center of the original circle. So now we know that the coordinates prior to translation was xy. Okay, and then it was translated with 7 and minus 3, and now it's equal to 8 and 2. So what is x equal to? X will be equal to 8 minus 7, which is equal to 1, and y is equals to 2 plus 3, which is equal to 5. So that means the final answer is 1 comma 5. There you go. ठीक हो गया? Okay. Oh, yeah, this is the question that I was talking about. Yeah, when you have two horizontal transformations. Yeah, let's do this question. Okay, so this question says y is equals to 4 sine half x minus 30. Describe fully the sequence of transformation that have been combined, making clear the order in which the transformations are applied. Now notice that there are two horizontal because there is a multiplication and something has been multiplied. So there are two horizontal and there is one vertical. Now vertical transformation you can place anywhere. It doesn't matter. Okay, you can place it at the beginning, you can place it at the end. It does not matter. Your final answer will stay the same. But as far as the two horizontal transformations are concerned, for that, here's my advice. My advice is that you take half common. Okay? You take half common. When you take half common, this is what you get. X minus 60. Okay? And now, once you've isolated x, you follow BODMAS. Okay, so first of all, you get the vertical transformation out of the way. You say it's a stretch parallel to y-axis with scale factor 4. Okay, then for the two horizontal transformations, only when you have made sure that you have made the coefficient of x equals to 1, do you follow BODMAS. Before that, you don't follow BODMAS, you actually follow the opposite of BODMAS. Okay, but now we're going to follow BODMAS. So BODMAS means that we are now going to see what x is being multiplied with. So we write multiplication first. So we say stretch parallel to x-axis, but be careful. The scale factor here will be equal to 2. Okay, because in the equation, you're multiplying by half. That means the scale factor is equals to 2. ठीक हो गया? Okay, now. Then it is a translation. And when you say translation, that means you need to write down the vector, which is 0 and minus 60. Okay, this is one way of doing it. Now here's an alternative way. Or you let it be as it is, 4 sine half x minus 30. Okay, here's an alternative way. You say that this is a stretch parallel to y-axis with scale factor 4. Then you say that it's a translation. And in this case, you write... Achha, wait a minute. I just realized that this will actually be 60, 0. Sorry, my bad. This will actually be 60, 0. Yeah, because it's x minus 60, so it's moving 60 degrees towards the right. So translation, 30, 0. And then you say that it's a stretch parallel to x-axis with scale factor 2. ठीक हो गया? Okay. Yeah, 60 0 होगा, yes. अच्छा, एक और चीज़, sorry, my bad. This is actually not a stretch parallel to x-axis with scale factor 4. This will be 1 over, एक second. This will actually be stretch parallel to x-axis with not scale factor 2 actually. This will actually be stretch parallel to x-axis with scale factor. एक second, just a minute. Let me make sure that I've done this correctly. हाँ, सही है. सही है. Stretch parallel to x-axis with stretch factor equal to 2. ठीक हो गया? There you go. This is the answer. Okay, let's do another question. एक काम करते हैं. Is it 9:30 yet? चलें, 9:30 तक रखते हैं. 9:30 I have a class. Then let's do this one. Acha, what's your question? Similar to this, sine squared 2x plus 5, then give domain, suppose. It's not possible. It's not possible to solve that because when you take the square root, no matter what is x, whether it's 2x plus 3, 2x plus 5, the graph of sine cannot be equal to 5 because when you take the square root, it's going to be greater than 1 and lesser than -1. That's not possible. So when integrating within limits, do we always take the absolute value of the answer or only when finding out the area under the curve? Okay. All right, let's solve this question and then we will stop. In the diagram, the lower curve has equation y equals to cos theta. The upper curve shows the result of applying a combination of transformations to y is equals to cos theta. Okay. Find, in terms of cosine function, the equation of the upper curve. Okay. So first of all, let's start by comparing the height. So the height of this is 2. The height of this is 4. So that means the height is doubled. So it's definitely going to be y is equals to 2 cos theta. Okay. Now, if I double the height of the... Achha, wait a minute. Which one's the upper? Which one's the lower? The diagram shows the lower curve has equation y equals to cos theta. The upper curve... ठीक है, सही है. Achha, when I double the height of this, here's what happens. This becomes 2 and the least value will become -2. Okay. The greatest value will become 2 and the least value will become -2. But notice that the greatest value shifts from 2 to 5. So that means there is a +3 also. Okay, so 2 cos theta plus 3. Now what about x? Now compare the width of this graph, which is 2 pi, and the width of this graph becomes 4 pi. So that means the width has doubled. How do you double the width in x? You don't double it by multiplying it by 2. You double it by multiplying by half. So that means this is actually equal to 2 cos half theta plus 3. That's the answer. Okay, with x, it's the opposite. If you want to double something, you divide by 2. If you want to half something, you multiply it by 2. And there you go. That's the answer. Okay. Achha guys, so it's 9:30. It is time for my next class. How's that 2 cos half? Okay, I'll go over it again and I'll stop. So first of all, notice that the height of the graph has increased. Okay. Now, if the height of the graph has increased, that means we need to see what the new height is. The new height is from 2 to 4. So that means we need to multiply it by 2, number 1. If I multiply every point by 2, so 1 will now be at 2. But this point is not actually at 2. This point is actually at 5. So that means there is a +3 as well. So there is a translation as well. Okay. Now, what about the width? The width of the graph has gone from 2 pi to 4 pi, which means the width of the graph has doubled. Okay, I'm only comparing this cycle with this. I'm comparing one cycle with one cycle. So how do you double the width of the graph? You double the width by multiplying x by half. Okay, basically what is going on over here? There is a stretch factor of scale factor 2. Now how do you apply that? How do you apply the stretch factor of scale factor 2? By basically dividing x by 2. Okay, this stretch is in the x direction with scale factor 2, which is applied in the equation by dividing by 2. Okay. Winter break? नहीं बेटा winter break तो ख़त्म हो गया. That's wrong. Nope, that's not wrong. That is the correct answer. Yep, that is the correct answer. ठीक हो गया. So I'm going to have to stop here because it's time for my next class. I had an hour. I thought why not do a live stream. So I'll inshallah stream more frequently in the coming days. So I will see you guys inshallah, and I'll catch you in the next stream. So take care fellas. See you soon. Allah Hafiz.